Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 371. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, not quite alongside Johnny V. I am in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Johnny V's back in Milwaukee. How you doing?
I'm in Milwaukee. I mean, what more do you want to say? I'm not in Rock Hill like it's seemingly the rest of the disc golf world right now. So there's that. I will say I don't get jealous very often of the travel. There's a few times, and even the last couple of years, I haven't really been jealous of USDGC not being there, not being involved. We're more involved this year than we have been in many, many years. And I'm jealous I'm not there, of all places. It feels like this is, and it's not because of the weather, because the weather looks like garbage, but I feel like I want to be there this year.
Yeah, there are a ton of people here. And when I say a ton of people, of course, we have all of our competitors, the FPO for the Throw Pink, and of course, the MPO or the Open Division for the championship. And the media component of it is so much grander than I think we've ever seen before as well. And just the amount of cameras, the fact that the entire shack, and for any of you that have ever been here before, you've seen some of the previous years' action. I believe that's right where James Conrad ultimately was handed his trophy, kind of in front of that fireplace area. Just a place that's acted as both a pro shop and a lounge for many, many years now. That is 100% taken over by media. It used to be kind of like a back room, and then the front room or the main space was always used exclusively for the pro shop, which thrived every single year and continued to grow and grow and grow and have big lines for exclusive releases and all these other things. This year, the shack area is 100% all media all the time. And everything else, as you may have heard from last week's podcast, has been moved down to the Edge Village area and everything that takes place down there. So pretty incredible undertaking.
I'd love it if you gave us a tour of the Edge Village, like Instagram Live or something. Find some time, maybe between the broadcasts, and just go live with your Instagram and be like, "Hey guys, I'm here at the Edge Village," and wander around and talk to a few people. Spend like 8 minutes doing that. Do that for me.
Wow, 8 minutes specifically, huh?
I don't think
not
you're
5,
gonna have
not 10.
Not 5, not 10. Just about 8. We don't.
Okay.
We're probably not gonna have a lot of time between broadcasts, so I just need you to just give me a quick 8, Terry. Just in and out.
Okay. I don't know if a quick 8 is quite a thing, but we could probably make it.
I'm making it a thing.
That's a possibility. I want to quickly jump on talk about. I had reached out to Mason Ford. We know that we were talking about having him last week, and then with everything going on, not only this week, that's not so much the issue, but when I did talk to him earlier today, he indicated that there was going to be some struggles with wireless signal and the campground that he was at, and now. Last week I was concerned, like, wow, man, that's going to suck, because if he has a really early tee time and we keep him up late here the night before the event. Not the case for him whatsoever. Of course,
latest tee time.
The latest possible tee time. However, I believe he does have other campers with him, and so I know they're playing much earlier. So Mason very graciously just let me know that it didn't look like the signal would work out. In fact, I apologize, Mason. I'm not even sure if I followed up after that, after you had told me that. We'll look to have him at some other point. Obviously, we've got a big old long off season, and heck, you just never know. Maybe he backs this up, goes for the 3 for 3, going for St. Louis, MCO, and now USDGC. So
the big 3, as they call
inevitable.
Them. I mean, they call that the big 3, the trifecta, what you're looking for in a year. St. Louis, MCO,
that's part
and
of the parlay,
USDGC.
I think.
Yes. If he hits that, I'm like a millionaire. I'm just telling you. I mean,
so honestly, somebody should be like a billionaire if they picked Mason Ford, and this is no just obviously the craziness of it, so this is no disrespect, but if you picked Mason Ford to take St. Louis, then MCO, and then USDGC, you deserve to win billions with a B, billions and billions. Okay, never mind. Anyway, so I'm sure we'll be catching up with him, and again, we're gonna have a big long off season in order to do so. And next week, again, maybe it's Mason, maybe it's not, but hopefully we'll have our throw pink champion ideally joining us next week when things are a little bit back to normal.
I don't think Mason will be the throw pink champion, so I think we'll be safe there.
No.
But
but that's why I say we could have them as well.
He'll be the MCO champ for a while. Just saying.
That's a good point. Good point. Possibly. Well, I was going to say indefinitely, but that's not the case. There's going to continue to be Music City Opens, but of course, not necessarily our culminating event on the national tour. So let's get into that. Let's start there. Excuse me. Before we go to the
did anything happen this week, Terry?
USDGC stuff? Yeah, apparently there was a merger. Circuit City and Best Buy decided. Okay,
they became Fry's.
No. Yeah, exactly. No, of course, we're talking about all the news that everybody should have seen in the last few days with regard to the PDGA and the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the national tour, so to speak.
Yep.
And what that is officially has become, and it's saying that the official pro tour of the PDGA will in fact be the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So,
and we talked about that last week. This was announced last Tuesday. Really, the news that we've seen come out, and something we asked Jeff Spring about, was the actual tour being announced over the last few days.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so in terms of all of the scheduling, which makes me now want to go out and also quickly try and find that and double click on. There was a lot of chatter, as expected. Everybody's excited, so to speak. Some people more excited than others, and I guess I hesitate. I say that because there are some people always passionate and usually local to that area, but there are some people that are really worked up about what they feel like is a lack of event or representation in their area. Did you see any of that madness, Johnny?
Of course. I think some slightly more valid than others. Maybe a few surprises. We saw some of the events that didn't make it to the schedule, but they're probably part of the Silver Series. If I've read the announcement properly, places like De La and Milo. Like, I can understand if you're a local from that area, be like, how can you not have Milo? There's a multitude of reasons. Let me tell you, other than there's cell signal, there is the actual park and the condition that it's in after the wildfires and the just some of the destruction that we've seen at the park. I think it would be probably fine, blah, blah, blah. But some of those areas, I also saw that a little bit in the Delaware area. People saying, well, how can Delaware not be on the tour? And obviously multiple reasons that we're not necessarily privy to. And then you get the same kind of the southeastern part of the United States that is rightfully or not, I won't say upset, but just still vocal about not having anything in Florida. There's no pro tour stop in Florida. There's nothing even on the tour in Florida next year. There may be a Silver Series will pop up, or maybe not. I don't know, but that is the other kind of area of the country that people are eager, and we've seen this for years. This is the last few years we've seen people, other than the tour finale, which was down in Jacksonville for a few years, right, Terry? That's where it was. Yeah, we really haven't seen the official pro tour stops. We've seen a Silver Series in Tallahassee. We saw a Silver Series. Was Throne on the Mountain a Silver Series at one point?
I don't remember. It was supposed to be in 2020, and that literally was the week before the tour came to a halt.
That's right. That's right. So,
because the tour came to a halt the weekend before, sure.
So either way, we've seen those kind of areas are the hotbeds of places where I've heard people being like, "Why not us?" There are obviously little, I'm using the term wildfires of other places that people will talk about, but those are the consolidated places I've seen personally.
Yeah, and normally I don't go right to the board this quickly for a quote, but Sam Martin has nailed about 90% of this that I just cannot echo enough when he says, if you want the DGPT to come to your town, build a championship course with facilities and get a TD and a crew that can do all the prep work. And then I'm just going to add to that. That's why I say maybe 80, 70, or 80%. Have an insane amount of added cash working through local and or national vendors. So get an incredible of added cash. I think the minimum you can bring to the table is like 15-ish thousand, somewhere in that neighborhood. Some have brought 30 or 40 or 70 or whatever. So get an insane amount of added cash. Ideally, the course that you built that we just spoke of course, has appropriate tees and or pins or the capabilities for both MPO and FPO. Ideally, it is also private so that you're not dealing with a local entity or a parks department that might come in at the last minute and say, hey, we're still dealing with a pandemic, or maybe that's even a bad example, or hey, there's actually a car show that was booked that weekend, so we're going to need to take over your course, or there's 6 weddings that were booked in that specific facility, or an art fair, or whatever the case might be. So ideally, it's going to be private. It's going to be a well-respected course that people enjoy playing, that's going to also appropriately challenge our players. And last but not quite least, but certainly important, make sure it's got good or at least adequate cellular signal so that we're able to then broadcast it live, because a staple of the Disc Golf Pro Tour since its inception is to in fact have live coverage of said event. So I Sam, you're right. Like I said, you're 70% there. Add on all those additional components to it, and that's how you get a Disc Golf Pro Tour. Being a long-standing TD and or having a great track record of running good events, also along with maybe some club support, those are also all things that factor into it. So take everything I just said in terms of what it needs to have a Pro Tour, and then copy and paste that, maybe even more, for some of our majors and some of our major bids to host a Pro Worlds, an AM Worlds, a US Masters. You need all of those components. And so it gets so frustrating to hear year after year the constant complaining by people that say, it's not fair, there's not one in our area. You got to look at yourselves, your club, your area first. That's not a matter of somebody, some pie in the sky, or some voice in the sky that's just sprinkling down and awarding these bids out of thin air, out of sheer favoritism. You need to have everything I just said and then some. And you need to be preparing some of these bids and this preparation anywhere from 1 to 3 years in advance. So for the love of God, people, quit complaining if there's not a big time event in your area, because all of those things need to happen. And if all of those things happen and then you're somehow shot down 5 consecutive years after putting in a bid, then I will bring you to the disc golf court and we'll listen to your testimonials or your
can I be the
grievance.
bailiff? Do I get to be the bailiff, like Bull?
You look like
Court?
a bailiff.
Awesome.
Yeah, you definitely look like a bailiff. I get it. For some people, I'm ranting, and this is all news to you, and you're brand new, and I can appreciate that. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at the people that every single year feel shortchanged and disenfranchised and frustrated that you're not getting your fair shake. Your area and your club and your people and your organizers, they all need to put it together first for any of this to even happen. So just wishing it upon a star of, well, man, I always play at this one course and it's a lot of fun and be really good. Like, I think Simon would like it. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not enough to get you.
There has to be a very
to have
solid,
a Pro Tour event.
Yeah, a very solid back end with all what Terry said and volunteers and all that other great stuff.
Yeah.
So we saw the other complaint I saw, and this one makes me laugh out loud, was the fact that we're going to Emporia twice. Like, I've seen more people complain about us going to Emporia twice than I have that there isn't a Pro Tour in their area, which, to be understanding that people know, the Pro Tour didn't pick Emporia twice. The Pro Tour picked Emporia once. The PDGA picked Emporia for Worlds. It's been on the books for at least 2 years, maybe 3. So, and I understand people being disappointed that maybe they don't love the Emporia style of golf. That's fine. Everybody has everybody has their choices, but one of the things I'll say is also Emporia has probably, maybe not probably, I'm going to say it. Emporia has the best tournament staff in the country, hands down. Period. Like, I will put them up against any other tournament staff, and we've got really great ones on the tour. Really great ones. I will put them up against anybody. Doug Bjerkes is a magician. And he literally, I think, pulled a quarter out from behind my ear, and I was shocked. Just shocked. I don't know how he did it.
Where he stuck it back is the question.
No, we don't need it. So anyway, so people complaining about the fact that we're going to Emporia twice. Obviously, DDO is a staple on the tour. It's a great event. World has been on the tour or on the planning books for years. We're not going to be at Emporia twice every year. You know, I guarantee you next year you're going to complain that we're in another place twice. So just settle down and relax, and we'll get there. We'll get to your complaints next year.
Yeah. As you just said, and which is also another, if we're just really going to go hard on the complainers tonight, another phrase that then comes as a byproduct of that is people saying, hey, are with the new result of the Pro Tour and the National Tour and the merge, are some of those events that maybe hosted non-FPO and non-MPO divisions, are they going to get rid of the Masters and the age protected and the amateur divisions? I saw Jeff Spring perfectly reply to that earlier today and say that's going to be up to every individual event as to what they want to do. And so I guess my point is, some people are saying, hey, we're going there twice. Well, in a place like Smuggler's Notch, in a place like at Emporia, in some of these places, if there's both a pro event at some point and then some other event that doesn't necessarily cater just to the MPO and FPO, then your wish is being granted, right? And that's exactly to what you're saying. So it's, I get it. I understand everybody wants disc golf close to their area. They want to see the top pros come play their courses, and they want to have a drive that's a half an hour away so they can go watch players. But as someone else on the board, also very eloquently stated, like, a lot of our courses have simply been outgrown and no longer fit or check all the boxes that we said. And many of them, they simply don't check the difficulty box, like right off the bat. That's one that comes to mind, is the difficulty has to be there for our top level competitors as well. So, all right. So that's that. Excited to see the tour, excited to see how it meshes. I know Jeff talked about the Silver Series that will be kind of finalized and released, and you're going to see a lot of the other events maybe fill in on Silver Series. Mm-hmm. And we got to remember, if we're always just going with quote unquote legacy events, like, we got to give some room to breathe. We got to give some opportunities for new events to step in and possibly prove themselves. Or when somebody comes along and says, okay, I check all these boxes, I have a great course, great payout, great area, great amenities, like, they filtering them on to the Silver Series or getting them there so that they could potentially prove themselves and graduate, we have to keep that in mind as well.
I'd kind of like to see almost, I'm never like a steadfast hard rule, but almost that you can't be a Silver Series 2 years in a row. I kind of feel like that could be kind of interesting, in that you're either promoted up to the Pro Tour and you get a stop there, and maybe a Pro Tour event goes down to the Silver Series, or you have to be a new event into the Silver Series in your way up to a Pro Tour. Because the last thing we want to see, and I guess maybe it's not the last thing, is the tour gets stale, the same tour over and over and over, and not allowing things like us to check out, the Silver Cup, which we've seen in the past, or maybe I'm going to use some Wisconsin ones, Kenosha, which has 2 great courses. Wouldn't that be awesome to see a Silver Series event there, or something along those lines? Anywhere, pick your favorite area and go from there. But I don't want to gloss over the announcement in the Pro Tour schedule of insert your meme here, playoffs. We got playoffs next year, and
which also very quickly works some people up. Some people got very excited and ready to go and wanted to know all about it, and some people just went to the most frustrated denominator there and started arguing and screaming about positions being taken away as opposed to more positions being added to certain events. But yeah, playoffs, like I don't know. I don't want to say like every major sport because I'm no expert on every major sport, but the playoffs and winding down at the end of a season, funneling into some type of system, I feel like is pretty common. I mean,
I'm interested to see how it plays out because according to the announcement that was made, the playoff format for the final two events, which is GMC and MVP, are going to be like limited entries. So you're basically going to have to earn your way into those events. They're only going to take, and I don't know the numbers, so don't quote me on this. Let's say the top 70 players. And that's it, 72, we'll say. 54. I don't know what the number is going to be. But those are the only players that are going to be able to make it into the event, is my understanding. So it's going to be people fighting for those and jockeying for those Pro Tour finale points. And I don't think this has been announced, and I'm going to say it anyway. I know that those events will be worth more points than normal. I don't know what that number is. I don't know if it's like 1.2 or 1.5 or 2 points or 12 times the points. I don't know. But I'm fairly certain that those are going to be worth...
You're thinking of credit cards.
Those are airline points. Those are airline points. Yeah, that's what actually you get here. The last two events, you actually earn airline points. So
yeah,
it's really worth it. Just pay me $75 a year, and you too can earn airlines points.
And if you buy all your gas at BP gas stations, you also will earn yourself a free ticket to the Pro Tour Championships
and 5 cents off your gas. So I believe those are going to be worth more tour points than the other events. I don't know much about the majors and how they're going to be included, if they're going to be worth different points. I don't think any of that's been announced yet. So we're going to see. We also haven't heard anything about the tour card yet, and what if that's even going to be a thing now with the entire DGPT and NT combining, if that is still on the table or if they're going to backburner that for another year. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, again, people want professionalism. We want to, raise the bar, and we want players on tour to make a living on tour. That means we can't cater to every single regional MPO player that's rated 979. And I'm not picking on anyone that fits that category.
That's
at
you,
all.
Scott
I'm just
Bertard.
saying the Pro Tour is not designed for you. And so if it comes to your town and you don't get to play because it's already in the playoffs or because you don't have a Pro Tour card, those are things to shoot for, but the Pro Tour is not necessarily designed for you. And I think that arguably is one of the toughest pills for everyone to swallow right now, is thinking, hey, there's a big event coming to my town that actually was awarded. It's coming to my town. Oh, but I can't play. I can't get in. Well,
me neither. That sucks.
Newsflash, you weren't winning. I understand those are your local courses. Maybe you do work days out there and you clean that course 6 days a week and you run the leagues and you are the greatest ambassador that area has ever seen. And does it suck that you can't play? Yeah, it might. But the Pro Tour is not designed for the 979 guy to flourish. If you want to get on tour and work your way through it because you bought it in all year, that's another story. But it's not designed to cater just to you when we come to your hometown. That's what B tiers are for. So, yeah, and that's tough. I know, and people are going to think I'm sounding like such a jerk by it, but I mean, you have to look at the mission statement of the Pro Tour and what it's intended to do. That's really no different than a course. That's the 810 rated player who goes out and says, "Oh, this course really sucks," and it's a 10,000 foot course that's designed for 1,000 rated players. It's a gold level course. Well, yeah, that course wasn't necessarily designed for you. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it wasn't designed to your skill level. So, All right.
That's the tour
Yeah, so
announcement
playoffs.
and our complaints and our us hearing complaints. It's
Yeah, and I do like the idea. Ryan out on the board said there should be a disc golf court. That would be entertaining. I would not be fair
Let's
or
host it.
just.
that's
or
our new
consistent?
podcast. No, that's our new podcast.
Yeah, you bring us your grievance, and
Yep.
then we rule in on it, and then
Yeah.
all decisions are made final.
Yeah,
Oh,
like the
I think
People's
we're
Court.
onto something.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever been done. A court show?
Not in disc golf. There's been disc golfers on the People's Court.
Well, I know a bunch of disc golfers that have been in court in general.
I know, but one specifically has been on the People's Court. Oh my gosh, that is for 500 points. Do you remember? We're gonna go way back
No.
to Night Court and the bailiff's name. It just came to me.
Bull.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask me the disc golfer that was on the People's Court because I don't remember that.
Oh, I know
that
him
person.
too.
Yeah, no, I know Night Court. Please, that was one of my favorite shows back on Thursday nights.
You would. Anyway, so yes, playoffs, combining of the tours, our majors are still going to be in place. Someone asked earlier as to whether or not we're going to still have the free live event, the final round event, or the final round
day
of an
round
event
on
live. Johnny V and I think without even trying to play dumb, we'll just naturally do it for you. Those decisions are well above our pay grade, and we are certainly not in the loop. They wouldn't trust us with those kind of
They know
information.
They know I would just spill the beans out here. So
you and your big mouth. So
it sounds
we do not
like,
know any of the details about DGN, what that's going to look like for next year in terms of the actual specifics, event to event coverage, all of that stuff. That, to be fair, a lot of that's still in the works.
I agree. And it based on a lot of things Jeff Spring has said, it doesn't sound like a lot is going to change with media next year. So it would not shock me to see the same thing next year. Again, it's still up in the air.
Yeah, and to bring that up, there were a lot of questions that asked about post-production. Same answer. We're not sure. You just alluded to, you don't think we're going to see a lot of changes. We can't say that 100%. Of course, we don't make those decisions, but will you see anything absolutely drastic and life-changing? Probably not, at least not next year. And I don't know if you will in the future, but I would really doubt you'll see anything absolutely bizarre and earth-shattering in terms of something negative that were to take place next year.
I did hear next year Joe Mez is covering MP40 on the Pro Tour. So
because we're adding MP40 to the Pro Tour. I like it.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, you said they're covering MP40 on the Pro Tour. You meant FP40.
No, I meant MP40. I had a great idea with in the one of our little private chat rooms for the disc golf media and fantasy football that we should each of us should go to Reddit and just start a random make-believe thread and see how many people we can get really rolling with it. And it would be mostly just like normal Reddit, but it would be done by all of us, and we could come up with some really good things like, did you hear that Millennium was bought by ... or something? Just make things up.
You mean put in overtime at the rumor mill? Sign me up.
I'm there. I'm there. And then they can bring it. Then they can bring it to court, to DG
yes.
court.
Yeah, exactly.
See how this all works together, Terry? Synergy.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully everybody now is up to speed, and I'm not going to beat the topic to death, but hopefully everybody is up to speed with the idea that the coverage this weekend is available on Disc Golf Network. However, it is not part of the actual shot-by-shot FPO and MPO action, is not part of the standard DGN subscription, that there's an additional pay-per-view option for that in order for you to be able to consume that. And I believe with your DGN discount, it brings the pass from $25 down to $20. And then that comes with a whole slew of of advantages and things that you can gain by that. So
There
just wanted to
will
make sure
be-
that that's very clear. I know that's a hotly debated and discussed topic, but I'll leave it at make sure you know what you're logged in for, what you're signed up for. And I'm just going to give you a tiny pro tip on that. If you haven't done it, go do it now. And I say that because tomorrow, when more people either realize it or finally get around to it, and then if there is any kind of congestion or challenge, you're going to be there and you're going to be frustrated with it. And I'm hoping none of that happens, of course, but just get it taken care of now so you can be a little more stress-free come tomorrow when you want to take in all the action.
It's real simple.
Is that a good tip, Johnny?
Yes, but we're going to allow all these disc manufacturers to sell it because they never have problems with their stores.
That's a
what
good idea.
I've heard that all these sites that it always goes flawless when there's a big release. So just count on
nothing
that.
ever crashes.
Nothing ever
with
crashes. With the pay-per-view,
stores.
obviously it's going to be, there's the $25 option. And then there's the $100 option. The $100 option gets you some extras if you look into it. I don't know what those exactly are, so I don't want to kind of go out on a limb. But
overpromise,
yes. But both will include post-production as well. They are the DGN is working with some existing creators to create some post-production of the rounds. And I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if that's strictly lead card, if that's going to be a nice mix of lead and chase, depending on what's happening. I have no idea. What I do know is that they're putting together post-production for the Throw Pink and the USDGC. It will be behind the paywall, only included with your pay-per-view. This is not a freebie. You won't find this on YouTube. And it will be there for a minimum of 30 days. At 30 days, it will be released to DGN subscribers. And I don't know if there's actually been a decision on whether or not it will be released to YouTube at all yet. I don't know. At this point, I don't think there's a decision. So take that for what it will. So if you're interested in seeing this event almost at all, at a minimum, you'll have to be a DGN subscriber. So I want to make that nice and clear. And I think I think it was announced that like Corey Merle is going to be doing commentary for both of them, and his co-commentator is going to be Elaine for Throw Pink, and is it Sexton for
maybe
I forget for the MPO. I thought it might be Sexton, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So anyway, there is a complete and non leaving anybody out graphic out there with all of the crew for the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
I was just checking. I didn't know if I got fired. Not yet. Okay.
No. You just didn't make the poster.
Wait. Okay. So it says post production commentary, Corey Merle and Nate Sexton, and then Corey Merle and Elaine King. So look for that. As you were just saying, Johnny.
Yes. So
it says round one feature card. Round one on the feature cards, and I want to quickly. I do want to quickly mention those.
Card for round one.
Chris Dickerson, James Conrad, Mason Ford, Evan Scott. Those are your USDGC feature cards. And for the Throw Pink Women's Championship, you have Paige Pierce, Owen Scoggins, Macy Veladiez, and Haley King. So there you go. Now, is that listed? Excuse my lack of being informed, but not that ever stops me. Okay, it does say you can watch exclusive next day. Okay, I was just going to double check that it is listed as next day.
Yeah, give Corey Merle a shout out because I think he's going to be doing a lot of work overnights to get some of this stuff done. That's my understanding.
Also from the studio for the live is Ian Anderson and Philo Brathwaite, and then Hannah Macbeth and Juliana Corver. And then out on the ground is going to be Nate Perkins. So that's what you see out there. All right. Yeah, and of course things are getting started. I wonder, did they get everything released to UDisc? Something that's kind of customary here at this event for many years, and
the worst
AmWorlds
custom
used to do this. Yeah, What's that?
The worst custom of all the customs
no.
in disc golf. This is one of the worst, in my opinion.
Well, it's one that we, to some degree, have outgrown because of other complaints that we've seen at other events. So at the World Championships, for instance, here at USDGC, for instance, for many years, and this is for some of you newcomers, for many years, there would be a players meeting the night before the event, and at the conclusion of the players meeting is when the score or the tee times would be released. The tee times and or the tee assignments would be released. This was, I don't know if that was 10, 15, 20 years of that was taking place at the World Championships, for instance. And here at the USDGC, there would be an hour-long meeting or whatever it was. And at the very end of the meeting, at 4 people at a time, our tournament director, Jonathan Poole, or our event director, or whomever, would then read off and say at 7:06, these 4, at 7:17, blah, blah, blah. That was 100% tradition. And now that we have such an I don't want to say, is advent the word, is we've gained so much in live scoring and the instantaneous nature of it that people have clamored and said, hey, why are we waiting around? Why don't we have this? Why wasn't this out a day or 2 or 4 days ago, or whatever the case might be? And let me just address one of those concerns. One of the reasons that you don't find some of those released early is because they're waiting for check-ins. For a lot of people, this is a lengthy journey, and there's a lot of reasons that you could get hung up or caught up or you don't make it here. So part of the reason was that they were waiting until everyone is either checked in or it was confirmed that people were going to be here, just due to the nature of the cards then. So that had a lot to do with it for a long time. But now, like I said, people are clamoring, say, hey, why wasn't this released days or hours ago? But that kind of segues right to a prime example. Look at Kristen Tatar and silver. You know, if it was announced even 2 days ago what the tee times were or who was on what card, things would have obviously had to get changed up. And I'm not saying adjustments can't be made, but there's one example or a case in point where someone we very much anticipated being here, and now on both the MPO and the FPO side, we're not going to see Kristen and Silver. So are you all up to speed with that, Johnny?
Yeah, my understanding is that they tried twice to board a plane back to the US. They spent a full 2 weeks in, is it the Shenzhen zone? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, I believe they were specifically in Croatia. I don't know exactly what that zone meant. Yeah, but I think part of that
they're out of
that Croatia.
I think maybe they're out of the Shenzhen zone, and more or less due to some murky, gray, whatever you want to call it, rules, kind of maybe soft rules. They were not allowed to leave the country. They were not allowed to come to the U.S. And my understanding, if I heard this correctly, was that their daughter was allowed, the visa was passed, but theirs was not. So you're not going to send, unfortunately, an 8 or 9 year old, however old she was, over the U.S. by herself without her parents. So they were not able to make it to the U.S. So they've already turned around and gone back. They're already home, and they're disappointed. And I think Paige Pierce kind of said it best, where it's like, yeah, that stinks. But thankfully, this isn't a major for them. This is a big event. It's going to probably be a major in the next year or two. But, which is funny because I didn't see this on the tour schedule. Did you? I'm looking at.
To be fair, I did not look at
it. It just says United States Disc Golf Championships Pro Major 5 through 8. It wouldn't shock me to see that this pops up as a major next year. Although I don't know for sure because the majors are usually announced ahead of time. Well, but you never know what's going to happen. Or it's just going to be another big event. But either way, I sidetracked us. Kristen Tatar and Silver Lot not able to make it to the USDGC and throw pink. So unfortunate for them.
Yeah, and just to real quickly touch on that, the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship has been the major. And then this year, in 2020, this event came about and formed the way it did so that there would still be an FPO based major. And I understand that, set a little confusion in place. But yeah, so this event, not a major this year. I don't know if we're going to see it as one in future years, but there is United States Women's Disc Golf Championships, just like the one that was in May this last year in California. Next year, it's actually in Madison, Wisconsin, about an hour west of where you and I live, and it's going to be held over there. So we'll see how this event continues to unfold, and if it's always, I'll say, locked side by side with the U.S. championships. So we'll see. But anyway, yeah, crazy. So, of course, sorry for Kristen and Silver.
All their fans.
Yeah, I can't imagine the sheer frustration of and the overall weight of it.
They spent 2 weeks away from their house, away from out of their country in order to qualify to leave. The exact same thing they did the last time they came into the U.S. And now it just, some bureaucrat somewhere was like, nope, sorry, this don't fly. She said something how they didn't believe them, or there wasn't enough proof or something along those lines. And it, obviously it's hard. There's translation and there's all sorts of bureaucracy and this and that. And, you know, in a month, a lot of that's going away. There's not going to be restrictions. There's just, I think it's mid-November is when those restrictions drop, which is unfortunate that it's not a month sooner for everybody, because we all want to see Tatar and Lot play these courses. But, you know, that's at least their house won't get broken into this time. So
that happened last time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't read that? Yeah. They were over here in the U.S. Their house was broken into and a bunch of stuff was stolen while they were gone.
I do not think I knew that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I come to you with all the disc golf gossip, Johnny.
Yeah, yes. Terry.
Thank you for filling me in.
Yeah. That was on an Instagram
that's
story.
Crazy.
How she came home. They came home to find their house in just total disarray, and that someone had broken in and stolen just she didn't exactly say what, but they stole a bunch of stuff. And so she was, you know, unfortunately burgled or robbed or whatever. Yeah, burgled of their stuff. So that was an unfortunate thing to come home to. But at least that won't happen this year, right? Or for this event.
Well, or it did, and they
Silver
haven't
lining.
gotten home yet.
No, they're home already. She said they're home.
Okay.
They're already home.
And of course, terrible to hear. I didn't, somehow that got past me, that escaped me. But yeah, either way, it sucks that they're not here. And not just to single them out, of course. You know, the likes of Henna and Evelina, we know that they're two top FPO contenders, and that there's a number of other MPO contenders that would love to be at the event had they been able to qualify, and so on and so forth, and if things were different. But at this point, there's, you know, obviously only so much that we can do. It's just, again, the frustration of, as Kristen did put it in one of her stories, like, they did everything right and by the books, and it just sounds like it came down to somewhat of I don't even know if judgment is the call, or a personal call, or whatever it took by some
Bring it to DG court.
People. Yeah, I was just gonna say that sounds like in DG court they would have got a much more fair shake on it. That's for sure. So, all right. Yeah, I think that's what we saw for, you know, I know some questions in the press conference were asked of next year. Some people already took a look at it and they were excited. I think of Akona Panis, who said, you know, it's kind of exciting to see we may have a few weeks off here and there, and we can either relax or find other events that we want to visit or partake in. And some players have said, you know, hey, I don't quite frankly care about next year yet. I'm trying to close out this year. There's a lot of money to be won if you really think about it. Of course, 30,000 next weekend, probably at least 10, I'm guessing, here at the USDGC. And then that doesn't include any of your sponsor bonuses that might be attached to those two events. So easily upwards of 40 grand and then some up for grabs in these next couple of weeks. So time to get locked and loaded, right?
One would think.
All right. And this is going to be just out of pure ignorance. I'm going to throw it out there. What's new? I saw a post, and also I saw some information. I don't know anything about what I believe is McCade Golf Concept or McCade Golf, but Paul McBeth made a post today. I think what is important to me about that, especially considering I know nothing about them, I don't think, is that it looks like clearly it's a clothing industry company, whatever, that's outside of disc golf. And to me, I think that's the big takeaway in the story here is the possibility. I'm just looking at their Instagram feed right now. It shows a lot of pants, shirts, jackets type things, lots of golf wear. And I'm sure any golf fanatics are screaming at me, telling me how maybe great their stuff is, which it very well could be. It's just not a company I'm familiar with. Again, the takeaway is this may lead to, again, more exposure in terms of overall just branding and companies that are not already inside golf. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about that. It's great.
Yeah. The announcement was made today. Ryan Pilcher does ask on the board, how was the feature card selected to USDGC? I feel like there's been a number of criteria throughout the years as to how we kind of arrived at it. And at one point, this was before live was the emphasis that it is. Noon, I feel like, or right around noon used to be kind of the quote unquote main feature card. And that shifted throughout the years.
I think, honestly, I think this year it was like world champ, last year's champ, and then I believe there were like sponsors selection, which I think is what Mason Ford got in under. And I'm not sure.
That would make sense.
I'm not sure about Evan Scott, honestly. I don't know if there was
I am.
Oh, you are? Tell me, Terry.
Evan Scott, sponsored by Discraft, is your amateur world champion.
Oh, amateur world champ. That's right.
And you said you wanted to find footage of him before he became Am World Champ. You could find that on the Disc Golf Guys YouTube channel. Earlier in the year, I had the pleasure of meeting Evan, obviously super talented young star, and he was playing MPO and made himself onto the lead card during the 4-round event we were covering down in South Carolina during Mother's Day weekend. So yeah, pretty cool that we got some footage out there of him. But anyway, it makes sense what you just said. Last year's champ, world champion in James Conrad, Evan Scott, Am World's champ, and then if that was a sponsor exemption, which would make sense, Mason Ford of Innova.
I mean, you could argue that it's the last 2 years of champions with Dickerson and Conrad, but I'm going to go with the fact he was picked probably because he's a world champ this year. So you never know with Conrad. That guy's just got championships coming out of every ear.
Yeah. He grows them like his hair, just all day.
D. Little asks on the board, will we ever know the pay-per-view numbers for USDGC? I don't know, to be honest, if those will be released or not. They were released last year, at least maybe not the numbers of how many people, but I believe the profit they had said. There's an Ultra World article out there somewhere. I think they had said Innova made like $140,000 or $160,000, somewhere around there last year for pay-per-view rights. And I don't know if this year will be announced. I haven't really looked at the numbers. Those are something I am privy to, and I will not say because I don't know if it's my position. But I don't know.
The short answer is it's not.
Yeah, correct. I mean, I could say it, but people would probably be mad at me.
Yeah, and I'll follow that up quickly because we're kind of still talking about that. Sue in Raleigh had asked, I wonder if Innova players got to choose tee time. Ricky has a nice early tee time, and so does Sexton. No. Short answer is no.
Most of the other cards are random, I believe, is what USDGC has kind of prided itself on.
Yeah.
I think there's one or two. I think there's one or two thumbs on the scale for a few of the cards, and after that, it's all random.
Okay. Seems like
like the way to do it.
Okay. Yes, and I believe there was, in fact, and I'm not going to spoil any details. Some of you have seen it, but another Champs versus Chumps was filmed out here, I believe, yesterday. And, of course, Central Coast is putting all of that action together. So make sure you check that out. Anything else from Chains for Charity? I want to get that plug in there quickly. Go out, and if you haven't already, make sure you get signed up for that. I know we touched on it briefly last week, but go out and get signed up where you can pledge for how well any given player or players are doing. There's points awarded for aces / albatross, birdies, eagles, all those types of things. Points are awarded where you're pledging a dollar amount for how your player performs. And then, of course, Edge, a major recipient there. And I believe they may have teamed up with some more. But Chains for Charity, you can find it all on discgolfunited.com. So make sure you go out there. And I know our very own Ryan Pilcher was one of the very first people, even before announcements were made, somehow, like, that guy beats everyone when it comes to getting stuff signed in or logged in or purchased, and that includes charity and philanthropy along those lines. So thank you so much.
Well, if we're talking
Frank
about,
also asked you for the after show.
Go ahead. If we're talking about raising money, I'll quickly mention, I want to thank everybody out there on Skip Ace who we've raised over $1,000 for the Paul McBeth Foundation for a chance to win his USDGC Players Pack. All proceeds will go to the Paul McBeth Foundation. Basically, it's a Skip Ace competition. Go in, you enter all this fun stuff. You enter the players you think are going to win, this and that. It costs you $10 to get in. I believe it's closed now, so you can't get in. But I think we raised over $1,000 for the Paul McBeth Foundation. So thanks to everyone out there who
Very cool.
joined in.
Very nice. Trying to think if there's anything else that, again, I got on the ground yesterday. Yeah, I got on the ground yesterday and saw, of course, some setup and people getting things in place and everything ready. Today, there was more positioning, getting the booth and the commentary booth all set up and ready to go in the shack that I alluded to earlier. We had a major transformer go out. That was a little bit of a challenge, and I believe power has been restored. Touched on that, but also the press conference today. I know you probably only were able to keep one ear maybe at most to the press conference, but was there anything else that jumped out at you that was mentioned or entertained or talked about in the press conference there, Johnny?
Not a heck of a lot. It was pretty standard. I know I mentioned Paige Pierce's earlier. Kevin Jones's, I felt, was just an awkward one for some reason. It just felt, it felt, I watched that and it felt strange up until the end when he signed off in Spanish. I thought that was pretty good. I know I private messaged you on one or two jokes that I felt like you really missed out on, that you could have shared with the world. But ultimately, it's pretty standard fare. What are you going to do? How are you going to play this course? Hole 17. Strange that, and I don't know if this was by design, Terry. Nobody asked, from what I heard, about hole 9 with the polls, about anyone's opinion on that particular hole. There was a lot of talk of, there were a lot of questions about next year's tour, which I thought was kind of useless. Like, we're here to talk about USDGC. We're here to talk about, getting ready for this event, maybe the Tour Championship as a whole, this 2-week period. I didn't really need to hear much about the Tour Champion or the tour for next year, but I was a little shocked not to hear anything about the actual hole 9, which was one of the talking points over the last week with that, or even, and I know this would be very difficult to phrase, so I don't blame anyone for not asking it. If next I think maybe I talked about this last week. If next week's purse kind of outshines this event a little bit, depending on and the purse hasn't been announced. They could announce a $15,000 or $20,000 to the winner. I'm just curious if players especially newer players, are starting to look at this like USDGC is great, but it's only, and I'm going to throw it in quotes, 10 grand or 12 grand. But the Pro Tour, pulling in that 30G, I'm just curious about whether or not anything is being overshined, or if that's, and again, I know that's a very difficult question to ask.
No, and it's exactly. But, and what's funny, as you mentioned, that there were a number of players that also still, even with that purse in mind, there's a number of players, Kevin Jones, I think, was one of them, that still prioritizes clearly the USDGC and
I
the
think they almost
major
all do.
title that's attached to it. Yeah. And so clearly money, we all know that money is great, but there's also the prestige factor. And it was kind of interesting to hear Eagle even say, most of these events could be a major in the sense that we are playing against, the same really deep field almost week in and week out, which I mean, that same argument's been made about the World Championships. That's an event that typically is in the middle of the season, and you get a bunch of people together that play together every week, and you have them play 4 or 5 rounds versus 3, and you call it a USD, or you call it a World Championships and a major. I can understand that argument, although I obviously I don't necessarily subscribe to thinking, to oversimplifying it in quite that fashion. But yeah, the core of the argument is there. Like, it's an event. I mean, here you're playing just one course as opposed to playing multiple courses. And I don't know if the timing of it, the fact that it's at the end of the year makes it feel that much different. I don't know. There's so many amazing things. And this event has set and reset standards and the bar, in so many ways, more ways than most of our newer players or newer spectators would even know or understand. I mean, the idea of island ropes and the OB string and a lot of those types of things and certain types of bunkers and holes getting played one way for one hole, but maybe a different way for another. Now, you can love or hate all those nuances, but a lot of those nuances ultimately have come from this event and this course. So, it's to speak what you're saying about we'll just call it an overshadowing or not. Yeah, maybe to some degree. I mean, it is.
And I wonder if it's different for the players versus the spectators. Our
sure
players obviously value the major, even over the money, because I think a lot of them know, get the major, get the money. If you get a major, there's probably a decent amount of money coming that's going to follow that for your career, whether it's in disc sales or whatnot. So getting that Pro Tour Championship win is great and all, because it's money in hand. You're looking at that versus the major, which is probably, future term money, so to speak. I think every player would probably take the major at this point over the Pro Tour Championship.
Yeah, but I will follow that up, and we can now say it.
But for viewers, that's a tough call.
Well, we can now say it. The money that can be won at some of these events in disc golf terms is life-changing. And I know $10,000 isn't life-changing for most people in the grand scheme, but when you're talking about young disc golfers or in young disc golf careers and people that are just looking for this as to if it's a career and a profession, and then you tell someone, yeah, $30,000 is going to be won at this one particular event next weekend, or what, 20 grand to Calvin and to Paige a few weeks ago. Like, yeah, there were people don't understand. 30,000 used to break records for an entire year's worth of dominance, or an entire year's worth of someone dominating. And I'd love to. I don't have Statmando in front of me, but that was very much in our career, Johnny. That was 15 years ago, where 30,000 was this absurd number. I mean,
I'd love to know what
got myself even worked up. Nico LaCastro set some new records. Gosh,
I'd love to know what year that $30,000 barrier was broken. I don't know. Like,
I'm starting 2008. Let's
how much
go there.
How much the top player won in 2008, 9, 10,
I
whatever.
feel like he set.
But this kind of segues into a comment on the board about Worlds being in Europe someday. We've always said, well, most of the players are here in the U.S. and it's really expensive to travel overseas once or even twice if the European Open's over there. Does that go out the window now? That we've got a lot of cash coming into our sport. Is that kind of just like, okay, I have to pay a $1,200 plane ticket Okay. Yeah, it's like
Well,
are we
for
to
them to come here or for us to go there?
for us
Because
to go there to Europe.
but we've
like,
been showing that the money's here.
I know, but for
And
Worlds,
I'm not good with the conversions, but we haven't seen those kind of payouts overseas.
I think, it depends. I mean, if a Worlds is announced there, I think you would see Worlds payouts. But I'm saying that if, to go over there for a Worlds, let's say the Worlds is in August and European Open and it's an off year, or even if it's earlier in June or something and people have to fly back and forth, are we eliminating that issue with the amount of money our players are making? It feels like a $1,200 plane ticket now to them is kind of like, okay, I'll do that for a chance to win a Worlds. Like, it's not as big of a hurdle as it was even 5 years ago, where you could say, well,
of course not.
The top 20 people, gosh, that's a lot of money to spend. Like, no, to them, the top 20 people, that's no. And it feels like there's so much money in our sport right now between manufacturers and just all the accessories and players and tour discs. But a $1,200, even if you want to go $2,000 and say you're spending a week $2,500 to stay and eat and everything, it doesn't seem like much anymore for these players.
No, of course.
It is for some, but for like our top 20 and top 30, I think all of them can swing it no problem.
And again, somebody can do some better fact checking than just my random guesses off the top of my head. Nico Castro, 2008, had played in 29 events, which is by today's standards not quite crazy, but not nearly common. 29 events, and he won 13,848. Now, clearly, that's a 10th place at the Worlds and 27th place at USDGC. So that's 2008. He won 13. We'll call it 14 grand. 2009, he won 42,000.
Okay, so 2009 was the big record.
That's when he won the National Tour Series. That was also when he took first at USDGC for 15 grand. But for some reason, Nico setting that mark around then. I mean, let's go to another all-time great in excuse me, I know everybody loves research on the fly here, but
yeah, I was going to ask, what are you doing?
I know, but I'm going to take a look at like David Fehlberg in that era. Certainly a dominant player, won the Worlds in 2008. And now if I go back to, say, 2008, for instance, he at that point had won 38 grand. What did he do in 07? I don't think it. 37 grand. So point being, 10 years ago or 13 years ago or so,
30 to 40 grand was amazing.
It was,
and now we are
talking about that in a single event, and it's still not, every weekend, clearly. But Johnny, before you and I throw our final frisbees in life, we may see,
hope so,
every weekend playing for $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. I no longer. I don't think that's crazy.
That's when I get back into the sport, start playing again.
I think you're right, because by then you being a caddy will actually make more than you've currently pulled in. If you're pulling in 10% or even 5% of somebody winning a 50 grand purse, yes, then you will win big, Johnny.
See? I think I could be a good caddy too. I think I'd be a great.
I would not go that far.
I think I'd be a great caddy, actually. I think I would. Not just good. I think I'd be a great caddy.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd go that far.
I think I would. I was postulating today on Twitter. There was talks about hole 17 at USDGC. And Eric McCabe had made a post about how 17 is broken. How would you attack this hole? And Johnny McRae responded, more carefully, or something along that lines. And there was some talks back and forth.
Soon.
And yeah, too soon. And I said that there is almost guaranteed going to be a conversation on one of these days, more than likely the final day, of a player going out of bounds and one of our commentators saying, well, why didn't he lay up? And it's like, well, that's his game plan, is to go for it. And, he didn't practice the layup. And I'm going to strangle somebody, because every year I say, if you're not practicing that layup, you're failing. You're failing at life. You're failing at disc golf, because if you're not going out the previous 3 days and practicing every option. You should be throwing from every drop zone. You should be throwing from basically any place you think you're going to go. Beyond hole 17, you should be throwing from the top. You should practice the layup. You should practice go foring it, because I tell you what, if you're up 3 strokes with 2 to go and you're not laying that up because you didn't practice it, you have failed. You're failed as a person. You failed as a disc golfer. And I don't care who you are. I'm going to say this. So that's
it sounds like Macbeth's going to have words with you. He said he like there was no situation where he lays that up.
That's the dumbest thing I've heard then. And I will go to my grave saying that's a bad decision by Paul Macbeth. Because if you're up 3 strokes with those 2 to go and you're in the final card, getting the 3 or the 4, taking a 4 on that hole, laying up to the thing, throwing to the fat part of the green, tossing up there and taking your 4 for a bogey is going to be better than throwing OB and almost guaranteeing yourself a bogey, if not worse. So I will go out. I will, to the day I die, say that if you're not practicing that shot, you walk up, there's suddenly a big headwind. You walk up, there's suddenly a huge side wind. And I'm sorry, like laying that up is the best choice in some situations. Probably not rounds 1 through 3, but there's
let
definitely
me follow
a situation
that up and
4.
say he told us today during the press conference that he has not practiced that.
That's dumb.
He doesn't see a situation where he does that.
It's a bad
and
move.
You're saying that he should be practicing that.
Yes.
So let me follow it up and say he can still throw it without practicing it.
He can. But
I mean, do you think he's incapable? Do you think he's incapable of laying up this 60 feet without going out and practicing that shot?
Of course not. But why wouldn't you practice it? You're there for days ahead of time. You know, especially if you're someone like him, where you're going to walk into that situation where there's a good chance it could happen to you. We've seen it. He was up by 4 a couple of years ago, and he threw it and he hit the tree and he went OB and people thought he might blow it. And they end up then putting it on the green and taking a bogey or whatever. I'm sorry. Like, that's just a bad decision to not even if your plan is to not do it, to not even practice it, to not even see, like, how hard do I have to throw this little 60-footer? Where should I lay it up at? What's the best angle from, the 20 feet I have here? You are setting yourself up for failure. And it frustrates me so much to think that, like, and again, like, is there a drop zone? Why wouldn't you be practicing a shot from the drop zone if you're going to be aggressive and there's a chance you play from the drop zone, from a drop zone, and this isn't just USCGC, why wouldn't you at least practice a few shots from it just in case you do take a bad roll and go OB? The course preparation at this course is paramount. And if you're not practicing it, I think you are failing. I think you're not doing yourself the justice of putting yourself in every scenario. That's all. And that's fine. If he's not going to do it, he's not going to practice it. I won't feel sorry then if he walks up to that position and messes up. Like, that's his decision. That's his choice. And I hope he doesn't. I hope it doesn't come down to that. But after saying that, like, ugh. Like, you're asking for the disc golf gods and the disc golf jury, the new disc golf judge, to judge you poorly.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that is synonymous with Macbeth, it's being a disc golf failure, as you've
I don't know, Terry, you tended to bring up everybody's failures today. Almost all of your conversations, almost all of your questions today started with, so
you're not good.
You haven't had the best year, or your putting hasn't been great. You took second a lot, but not first. Like, those were a lot of your questions today, to the point where it was almost memeable on the chat board. Everyone knew you were going to talk about their shortcomings.
I was bringing the heat.
I was
bringing the heat. Okay, well let's address that. Of course, I'm doing some quick research. I've got stuff that's already in my head and just notions and thoughts, and then once in a while I'll also try and back that up with a fact or two. And when you see Ricky Wysocki, he's a great example. He literally has taken 4th at the last 5 events, and I throw the match play championships out.
He's
He's taken second at the last 4 events. and the one he didn't take second at was the match play championship. So that's why I think I clarified it by saying in stroke play, you've taken second at the last 4 events. You could say, well, that's pretty good, and I guess put it in a more flowery way. But really, people want to know, well, why aren't you winning? Why aren't you closing? Why aren't you finishing?
There's a few people that's the answer. That's the question.
I entirely blame Mo for this. Mo told me at the beginning of the year when I started doing my first ever press conferences, we're talking about the here and the now, and we're talking about things that essentially apply to this week. That's more or less like kind of the formula I was given. And so when I'm seeing that you've done that, in the last 4 events, and here you are showing up to this one, like, yeah, as you said a few weeks ago, what are you going to do to change that narrative? How are you going to address this? What do you need to do? Why are you coming up short? Do you know why? Have you thought about it? And I do understand how some people feel like that comes across as harsh, but at the same time, I'm also kind of sick of dancing around some of this. They all know me. Everybody knows that I'm not being mean-spirited or that I dislike anyone that I talk to today. I dislike others, but no one today. I'm talking to all these people, and for lack of a better term, let's cut to the chase. Tell me something provocative, shocking, insightful.
And ultimately,
let's get to it.
That's what those press conferences are for. They're a cheap
apparently.
reason, a cheap way for us to get sound bites from players to play during the week. So if you hear McBeth say, there's not a chance I'm ever going to lay up on that hole, and then we run into that scenario, Mo probably has a little VO of McBeth hitting the tree a couple years ago and still winning, and McBeth throwing it and going OB 3 times over the last 10 years or whatever the scenario is. That's why we do those press conferences. We don't. They're nice for everybody, but we do them to get sound bites. And so your questions tend to provoke more sound bites, which is another reason why I felt like asking questions about the tour next year is worthless. A, because it's so far away. B, it doesn't seem to add anything to the today, to what we're trying to figure out today, and the sound bites we're trying to get from them. That's really that's really what it's.
I get that,
about.
I think again, a lot of the conversation was that is the largest thing in the news cycle, in the disc golf news cycle, is the merger, and then on top of it, the official tour being released. So I don't totally dismiss the questions about it. I just felt like we started to kind of get the stock answer from some that said, "Hey, I don't care about next year," but then again, like we said, some said, "Yeah, I did take a look at it." So, I guess everyone had a different angle response to it. But yeah, so I want people to know I'm aware of how I phrased these questions. And if you go back from the first press conference I ever really was in charge of, I'll use that in air quotes, the first one I was told to do solo back at Jonesboro in April, compared to where we are now, I've continued to just rephrase and reword some of the same questions, but reword them differently, and just come at them from a different angle. And even some of the way, the tone or the phrasing that I use, I am trying to incite a little more of a response out of them. Not like, "Oh, hey, I'm mad at you and how dare you say that." But if I'm putting it a little bit maybe more bluntly, then maybe, they're going to react accordingly.
Okay.
So anyway, I realized that was out there, and I want people to know, because you already know this, Johnny. You and I both, along with plenty of others, on any given day, we're blasted and wildly accused of being just these incessant head over heels fanboys and have all these favorites that we like and we can't quit fawning over. And now you turn around to a day like today, and I'm sure some people are like, "Oh, he's such a jerk. I don't know why he hates so-and-so so much. And did you hear, I don't believe he was so disrespectful." And it's like, of course, at the end of the day, you just can't win. But
I know. I can't wait for the
That's a
Reddit
little bit of
threads
my thought
tomorrow with
process.
me clipping out the thing about I just said about Paul McBeth and not laying up and being like, Johnny V hates Paul McBeth and thinks he's the worst golfer ever.
I already text him. Yeah, I already text Paul.
Okay,
like,
good.
Holy
good.
cow!
Jesus,
So.
Johnny went hard on you.
And you're like, yeah, thanks for donating your players pack. I'm glad we raised $1,000 or more for your foundation. But by the way, you're terrible.
But you're a terrible person and an awful golfer and don't know how to practice. Never mind
Yeah,
the 5 championships you have.
And I'll put it out there, if there's other things that, and I know we're closing down press conferences kind of for this year's cycle, and we'll see, what they look like next year. If there's other things that I'm wildly missing on that people want to know, I'm excited to hear those things. It is a little bit of a challenge to come up with, especially because we see so many of the same players, to come up with the appropriate things for that weekend, for that event, and what's going on week in and week out. So if there are things that people are dying to know, maybe there's some way I don't want to say we crowdsource the questions necessarily, but if there are things that are pertinent, and again, we're keeping in the construct of the here and the now, this tournament, maybe something from your last tournament and something in the immediate future, but I don't want to be talking week in and week out about life goals. As Mo kind of scolded me early on in Jonesboro and said, hey, less podcasty sounding and more like quick hitting questions. And that's kind of the mentality I've had moving forward. So maybe there's more stuff. And somebody said on the board, yeah, McBeth, week in and week out, he's talking about his putter. And then some days his putter does the talking, and some days his putter hits front cage and rolls away and, does talking in a different way. And, I feel like some of those topics have to be discussed. But it's still nonetheless necessarily, depending on who it is, kind of awkward to be like, hey, you gave away the event last weekend with 3 holes to go. Some of that's easier said than done, especially when you know these people.
Benjamin says, honestly, it has got to be a little rough on the player's mental game when you ask those questions out of the blue. And to me, I say maybe, but that's part of sports. Every athlete has to answer those questions. If and we're going to use a local, if Aaron Rodgers throws a last-second interception to lose the game, he has to stand in front of that press and answer that question. Why did you throw it here? What did you see? What was the defense showing you that made you think that was the right decision? Were your feet off? I mean, did you see the defender coming around the corner and you got rid of it too soon? These are all questions that when you put yourself in that spotlight, you have to answer and you have to be ready for. You have to be able to face the music, so to speak, and deal with that. And that's what these athletes have to do. And they have to know that. We can't, as someone says, we can't coddle them. We're a very close community still, where, you know what, it wouldn't shock me if Terry, you asked Kevin Jones a tough question and later that night you're out mini golfing with him and you're on Instagram being like, hey, check this out. We're very close group, and these are questions that every athlete needs to deal with, and it will ultimately help their mental game, I think.
Oh, certainly. And today, I not only did I have to do some legitimate research that nobody should fact check me, but I think I did it right. When I opened with Paige and I said, Paige, your 13th place last weekend was the worst pro performance you've ever carded. Now, I think there was one event. I mean, she obviously had to withdraw from Utah a few years ago, so on and so forth. I mean, there's a few of these like exceptions, so to speak. I think legitimate exceptions, but I literally think since like 2010 or 11 or whenever, 13th is the worst she's ever finished. And understandably with the dominance that she's shown us, but seriously, 13th. And then when I told her that, she's like, wow, I didn't know that, but thanks for bringing that up. And I was just like, I mean, in the same way, that's a compliment. That's like, seriously, 13th, and you've only done that once or twice in your career, that you finished, quote unquote, that poorly. In some ways that's a compliment, but it has to be talked about. I mean, that by her standards was abysmal. So pretty crazy.
If we have DG Court,
yeah,
we need to get Owen Scoggins on it. any which way possible. She could be.
She's too nice.
She can be
she'd give everybody the benefit.
No, I mean, she could be the court stenographer. She could be the plaintiff, the justice. I don't care what she is. She can't be the judge, but she's the best interview that you do, hands down, almost every time. I love listening to her answers. She's always upbeat, and then she kind of tells it like it is a little bit, which I really enjoy. I think
she doesn't pull any punches, and she's infectious. Like
she is.
Her laughter and her outlook is infectious. And then, I mean, when she's just so brutally honest about how great things are in golf and life and playing, and I think she recognizes and feels blessed to be doing what she's doing, and the fact that she's eligible for an age protected division, and then still, you know, can come and be competitive every single weekend in the FPO division. I mean, yeah, she's just that. She's infectious, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, even the first year in night court, Bull had the other old lady bailiff who sat and smoked. So if Owen wants to be my partner and just hang out next to me, and we can, you know, be bailiffs together, I'm good with that. But Owen is phenomenal, and she was the best interview of the day.
I mean, here's, you said something about Kevin, so I will share this. I feel like Kevin lately, I'm going to have to ask him about it. I feel like every time I ask him a question, his answers to me are getting shorter. And then somebody said he glared at me today.
I think it was just like he looked like he was
just an awkward pause on my behalf.
No, it was like the very beginning of the interview. I think you asked a question, and I don't know if he was staring at you or past you, because we can't see where you are, but he was staring, and it kind of came off like a glare, considering where the question was coming from, and it did look like he was glaring at someone or something. And if you happened to be there that he was looking at, you know, whatever. It just,
so we went.
You didn't even know the name of his real estate agent. Come on.
I wish I would have known, because then that's a perfect time where I like to jump in and help out someone if I know the word or the person they're going for, and I can fill in that blank. But I didn't. There's a lot of creepy things that I know about a lot of our players, but his real estate agent in this case, I did not know. So that was awesome. That was obviously a huge, you know, just a huge life milestone for him, that's in the works. But to bring this back full circle, when we were done, he actually jumped off the chair and he said, "That was my favorite interview of the year." And I don't take any credit for that. I mainly tossed that over to Nate Perkins, who had some good questions for him as well. But so it's funny, as maybe slow as it felt like that started, by the end, he's telling us, I mean, he's walking us through a laptop that doesn't work. He's talking about DJing. He's talking about other passions. And then he closes it out speaking Spanish. Like, if you think about it, that was also a pretty entertaining interview today.
It was a good interview. I still like Owens better, but yeah. And I asked on the board whether or not you think I could be IT professional at the Disc Golf Stars, because I swear to God, once every 2 months I hear about a player, they're getting their laptop stolen, it breaking down, it not working, you know, them losing data, and I'm back up, people. Just, you know, for a few grand a month, I'll be your IT person. Just saying, I can do it. I'll make sure you don't lose anything, Kevin. So,
yeah, just a few grand a month. Wow, it sounds like you run a really great deal that
retainer,
no other service could be doing for a fraction of the cost.
No, you want to go to someone trusted, someone in the disc golf community.
Not you.
Someone who has 25 years experience in the IT world.
Yeah, me too. So let's not throw out qualifications. Okay,
that's true. You did graduate with the same degree I did.
Exactly. Meanwhile, I spent about 55 minutes tonight still trying to get my camera through a web utility to connect to my either one of my computers, and it's driving me crazy. That's a whole nother story.
You open up a command prompt and you type in format space C colon
CD colon yeah
/ and then just hit yes.
Oh my gosh,
just
so frustrating.
Maybe you need to upgrade to Windows 11. So
yeah. Oh, okay. That's what I need.
Yeah, there's not a lot of disc golf news. Everyone's getting prepped for USDGC. We're going to start seeing the event and Throw Pink tomorrow. I think the broadcast starts at 9:30
9:30 Eastern.
Eastern. Jinx. And the MPO, we'll say, or the USDGC portion, I believe starts at 2 o'clock Eastern.
2:30 sounds about right.
2:30. You're right. 2:30.
You'd think
Eastern.
two guys that help would know, but
I'm not doing anything tomorrow,
I mean,
so
I just do interviews. What do I know?
yeah, your job is to sit in front of, wrangle up players, talk to them, ask them the same questions over and over and over. My job is to push the same buttons over and over and over. So really, I mean, we're easily replaceable.
I think tomorrow I'm just going to shoot for the most awkward interview questions I could ever put together, and then we'll release those.
Please do it with. I think we had a thing one time with Barsby. If you could like wrangle Barsby in and just try to do the most awkward interview ever, I think that could be great. He's somebody that I think would play along with you and just be, just go a whole between two ferns with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick look on the Instagrams, which is where I think we're gonna see 9:30 a.m. Eastern and 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So just wanted to confirm with everybody, 9:30 and 2:30. That is for the throw pink and then the USDGC. So I wanted to throw that out there.
And if at any point you can get a player to attack you, bonus points.
Oh, that shouldn't be hard. Speaking of night attacks, Robert McCall out on the board this last couple days ago. I think we saw that we're going to see some more and hear more of Cool Daddy Slick Breeze and the Disc Golf Answer Man. Some exciting stuff coming from that camp.
I watched the end of their first kind of group Disc Golf Answer Man. I think Disc Golf Answer Man is going to be, I don't know why we're giving them free advertising, but is going to be a bigger thing than just like what it was before, because Bobby's doing separate interviews. I know they're going to do something with Eric Oakley as well as Robert McCall and Cool Daddy Slick Breeze. So it's going to be a more general disc golf answering topics. I think some other segments and whatnot. So I'm excited to see what they can bring. And they have to, if you are a fan of the old one, please by all means go subscribe. I know Bobby's kind of got to build it up from scratch again. So, and Bobby is working on trying to do social media for companies full time. I think he's kind of starting up his own little business. So definitely, if you watch it, just if you need to, get a Post-it note, stick it on your monitor right over where Robert McCall is. The podcast is 10 times better if you just don't see Robert.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I know.
He looks so purty.
He's the purtiest guy, and he intimidates me. So I have to put a Post-it note over him.
This is normally after show fodder, but one thing that was really awkward about the plane landing yesterday as I was arriving in Charlotte was and it doesn't matter that it was the female flight attendant that was then talking about the male pilots, but just kept calling them pretty or pretty faces. And like she used the term multiple times and to the point where it was a little weird. I was like, all right, we get it, lady. This makes everyone on the plane feel a little bit weird right now. All right, Johnny. So do we want to close out the regular show, or do we just want to roll a little longer on with some after show type stuff and call it an after show?
Let's just roll a little longer with some after show stuff. We don't need to. It's a kind of quiet. We might. Are there any chance you're going to be chiming in during the week at all with anything for USDGC?
There is. If I swear, if it kills me, or if the Backwoods Bastards don't, I am going to get my camera set up, and if it works out, I don't know how the acoustics are, honestly. I'm in a very, very empty room with a little bit of absorption, and so I want to hear how the acoustics sound as a result of tonight, and then that may dictate just how much and how and where I want to go live and what I want to do. But I could see very much doing some kind of recaps. I don't know that it'll be every night. Some nights, every other night. I'm not sure what I would do, but if so, head over to the Disc Golf Guy YouTube channel, and you would see or hear me rambling on here alone in my hotel room, kind of similar to what you're seeing right now. So that might happen, and that's going to be over on my channel, the Disc Golf Guy's regular YouTube channel, which I'm going to throw in. Thank you for the segue, Johnny. Perfectly placed. I'm going to throw in a quick plug and a reminder that this off season, off season, I'll use in air quotes, there is going to be just an obscene amount of bonus footage that is yet to be released. So some of it's already edited, some of it's not. There's a ton of it that's going to be assembled. So if you thought about, oh, there was extra cameramen at this Pro Tour event, or we got the 5th card at that event and the 3rd card at that event, or FPO2 at such and such event, I have a ton of it. And so I just want to let everyone know that the goal is before the start of the 2022 season, you're going to see dozens of rounds of footage that will be released, some from the Pro Tour, some from smaller events, AM events, other A tiers, you name it. It's all building in the can right now, and it will slowly get released as this year's other events start concluding or come to a close. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Well, everyone has.
All right.
Everyone can look forward to that throughout the season when the rest of the disc golf world is winding down
and relaxing,
and
yes,
just earned vacations.
I will have all of the sweet 2nd, 3rd, 4th card action from a ton of these events, and I can all but promise you, almost every single round that gets released will have 1 or 2 or 4 superstars on it. Like, there's a ton of great footage. It's just been a matter of lining it all up, and then interjecting it throughout the year would have been kind of weird at this point. So you're going to see it unfold in chunks throughout the off season. All right, let's read a few things off the board, and then we're going to shut things down a little bit early. Big day tomorrow, USDGC right around the corner. Okay. Reading off of the board, Discraft, this wasn't on there, but Discraft did have look like a team party, team meeting, team dinner last night. Looked like a lot of people having some fun out there. I saw quite a few posts from it, and apparently they're doing quite well. Looked like some kind of fancy schmancy place. I guess that's how you roll. So I saw that taking place. People are talking about liking Wysocki. Are you guys officially picking champions? Is that what the conversation is in the chat board here, Johnny?
Yeah, people are picking. So, all right, Terry, I don't necessarily have, we'll ask you to pick a particular person, but do you think we will see a new USDGC winner?
Wow. If this year has...
That's a lot of the field that you get to pick from versus a limited amount of field.
I know. And the front runners of people that haven't won...
Eagle and Kelvin.
Just... Eagle, Kelvin.
Those are the front runners.
Simon?
No.
Oh, you're not picking Simon?
No.
Okay.
Simon hasn't proved that he's consistent enough for over 4 rounds at any event.
Okay.
I could see a Kyle Klein, but I wouldn't consider him a front runner yet. I think your front runners are strictly those two.
Wysocki. As everyone could argue, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Highest rated player here that has yet to win it. And I reminded him today. I said, Ricky, you haven't won this event. I don't know if you know this, Rick, but you keep failing. Every time you show up,
did he remember
you
or not?
I
couldn't remember.
Wysocki, Matty O. Matty O's had a hell of a year. Let's be real. Adam Hammes. There's nothing that says Adam Hammes couldn't take this down. Kevin Jones, Kyle Klein.
Sure.
And then you get into, just your less consistent superstars. You have, and I'm reading from people who haven't won. Then you have Drew Gibson, Isaac Robinson.
Yeah, there's a huge list. Pat McMahon was on the board earlier saying that he thought that similar rated players should play around the same time, or top rated. I don't remember how exactly he phrased it, but all I keep looking at is like, no, I think in general you're kind of right. Not this event. These are all the heavy hitters. There is not a single person. I'll backtrack that.
Yeah, there is.
There's about 5 people on this board that if they showed up on the lead card day 2, I would be like, holy crap, that person's on the lead card. Other than I'm looking right now and Davis York, he would shock me if I saw him on the lead card. And I'm not.
Oh, you're such a hater. You're such a Davis York hater. Sorry,
Newt
Davis.
Valen Holland. He would be one of the ones I'd be like, holy crap. But even if you pick some of the smaller names that we don't normally see, like Corey Ellis, AJ Carey, Brad Schick, none of those people would shock me if they were on the lead card. And they're not, I wouldn't pick them to win, but day 2 lead card, anyone can. Last year we saw Russell, right? Alex Russell come out and shoot like a 15 down. No one's picking Alex Russell to win this, but
his dad was.
Oh, maybe. And Alex is a great guy, but still, like, this course, nothing is going to surprise me.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, because you can have these players keep it in the fairway, make some good putts. Tomorrow, it may come down to a little bit of the timing. If weather creeps in at any point throughout this weekend, which it's going to, I'm just saying it clearly can impact some players more than others. And that could be early, it could be late, whatever the situation. That could be a factor as well. There's no way to absolutely safeguard against that, though. Either. I mean, Ricky's going off early. It could be raining, and pouring then, and be obviously clear in the afternoon. So anything's possible for that. But yeah, of course, Andrew Marweed. There's no doubt that he's a conversation piece right in there. Who you'd be like, oh yeah, we know what he can do now. We watched him go like 309 rounds without a bogey. He could. Be right there in that conversation. So, yeah, you're right. There are very few surprises, and if there's a time to have make yourself known, it feels like this event every year somebody steps up, and maybe it's only for one round, but somebody steps up and has this breakout round or performance. You think of Kevin Jones a few years ago, Jeff Bennett a number of years ago. Yeah, there's just so many, Alex Russell's performance last year and what he did. There's a lot of those opportunities. Chris Clemens, really solidifying his name out there when we saw him put together an incredible round out
the past 2 years. He's finished top 5, Clemens, or top 10, I believe. I know for sure it's top 10.
I didn't grill him during the press conference, so I'm not sure.
I know for sure it's top 10. I don't know about top 5 the past 2 years. I think so, because and Yuli, who since 2014 has finished out of top 10 one time at this event.
Yeah,
like some of these guys come to play. Yuli's one of them.
2020, Chris finished in 9th, and he finished 4th. The year before that.
So top 10. All right, so Terry, but you didn't answer my question. New major winner or not?
A new one? I'm gonna say. Wow! That
new major winner or new USDGC winner?
I'm thinking new USDGC winner, okay. and I mean a lot of that's carryover. Gosh, man, that's almost like calling people out. I don't. I think we will see a new one.
Okay, I think so too.
Just this year. I mean, I don't normally. I'm all about like your quote unquote safe bets. And maybe this is the safe bet. I don't know, but like
I've played cards with you.
You're rarely you're proven.
You're rarely about the safe bet. I've played so much cards with you, Terry. Oh look, I have 4-4-6-6. I'm gonna go for the inside cut. Oh look, I get it.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that. Yeah. I think we will see a new USDGC champion. Yes, people are saying Emerson Keith. Lots of different people that could be in that conversation, as we just kind of went over. I totally lost where I was going to go with that.
Probably best.
Yeah, probably. All right. Let's see. Mason Ford. Yes. I mean, that's been the beauty of this year is we continue to bring up names and new people that have blown us away week in and week out. Your Marweeds and your Kleins and your Mason Fords, just to name a few. Pretty incredible. Let's read up and see. Neil had asked earlier, just seeing this, Neil, what is your most treasured USDGC rock? Well, funny you say that. I was going to say, I know I have about 10 or so of the Battle Rocks. I know those were kind of like just like a blue chip item, like They've always hovered around that $75 to $125 to even $150 range. And like, it just seems like, hey, I need a USDGC battle rock. And somebody's like, I got $100. Like, that's the minimum starting point. And it's funny how that specific disc has maintained like almost down to the dollar. I feel like 125 actually is the magic number for one of those. So I've got a dozen of those that I got and never got rid of, that I've had from day one. I would say though, the white on white embossed mini stamp, and you got to be a, kind of a diehard collector to know what that is, but they made a very, very small run of one of the releases one year. I think when they had like 7 different stamps, 5 or 7 different stamps that year. And one of them was a mini rock logo. It was a mini sized rock logo. And they had various foils for them. And I'm just going off some memory here, but I believe there were maybe just 14 that were white stamped on white discs or white embossed, or maybe they were just embossed or ghost embossed or ghost stamped. No, I think they were white on white. And at one point, Mike Cousins in northern Wisconsin of Sandy Point Resort, he had one, as he was a big collector, and it sold for somewhere in the neighborhood of like $800 or $900. And then the Frizzwiz, Kurt Lampkin, had one, and he too sold his in that same neighborhood of like $800 or $900. And I had one of them. So there was only 14 in existence. Theirs were 2 of them, were sold, or we knew what happened to 2 of them, and I had one. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to get rid of this. And it's worth a lot less today. There's no doubt about that, probably. But I guess if you're thinking value and or uniqueness, that's probably one of the most unique USDGC rocks that I have or treasured. Now, this also comes, and I won't dig too far down this rabbit hole, this also comes from me being a USDGC partner for 6, 8, 10 years, whatever it was, and I bought the max allotment every one of those years, whether that was 25 or 35 or 50, whatever the case was. Let's just put it this way. I could likely buy a brand new vehicle if I were to ever just swap out all of my USDGC rocks. Was that a good investment? Have they all held value? Certainly not. Are they all at least worth what I paid? Yes. But, I missed the boat by not flipping them almost instantly, which is what most people did. And I instead would sell 1 or 2, and then I'd hold on to the other 47 of them. And so almost every year I got the max allotment. Joe, I see you out on the board. I know you've collected quite a few. So, yeah,
they do.
The
do they still
rocks
do that?
were a
Are they
staple.
Are they still doing USDGC rocks?
At a certain point, I'll just out of sheer frustration's overstating it. Out of sheer confusion and whatnot, it just became, believe it or not, it became too overwhelming. At a certain year, a few years ago, I was like, I don't think I need to be buying all these. I don't know. And it's not just about, whether they were holding or increasing in value. I don't get around to selling most of this, but I didn't feel as if it was as exclusive anymore. These discs weren't as sought after, and they didn't have to be, because you were buying it to support the event in the first place. That's why you were buying it. That's why you should have been buying it, in my opinion. And that's why I did buy them. But then it became, there was just so many, and there were so many runs and variations that I couldn't keep it anywhere near straight. And I felt like the opportunities were watered down a little bit. And I was thinking like, no, I'm spending thousands of dollars on these, and I'm no longer going to do it. So I don't know what the program entirely looks like for all of the details anymore, but that there was a good 6, 8, 10 years of a lot of USDGC rocks. So, all right. Yeah, you got to find buyers, and you got to decide if you want to sell them. And like I said, some people got them and instantly turned around and sold them all, and some people made a ton of money doing that. Just like a lot of releases, these were so exclusive for so long, like a Champion or Star Rock, but then they came out with Star Rock Pluses, and then Macbeth rocks came out, Champion rocks came out, and then just eventually, like I said, I feel like they lost some of the appease or the allure or the exclusivity, and that's when I felt like I saw some of the pricing decline. Carney says, can't wait for the 40-year anniversary Arrow. Sounds good. Joe says bought from 2004 to 2011. I could see that.
I'm a little surprised that there isn't some sort of mini documentary about the USDGC rock yet.
There obviously could be. I know there's
for sure. From the first one to the Battle Rock to the Challenge Rocks, whatever there are.
I feel like a few years ago, Jonathan, I want to say it was Jonathan Poole or Disc Golf United or Zone Driven or whatever it was at the time, had put out a call for anyone. They were basically putting together a USDGC rock museum. I was going to say shrine. It's more of a museum. And a whole bunch of people contributed rocks back to and donated them back to the museum. And so if you go to Innova's factory on the East Coast, you go to their East Coast warehouse, and it's incredible. I think maybe on Instagram somewhere I put up a picture of it a couple years ago, and it's absolutely incredible. And I'm looking at all of these rocks and like, oh, I have that one. Okay. I have all of these except for those like 3. And I remember looking at it, and it's absolutely beautiful. I don't remember if there's a placard and a write-up for all of them. If not, there could be. You're right. There is an entire like mini documentary that could be done around just how exclusive and collectible and amazing that
and
that disc is.
It could go all the way to a behind the music and now nobody really cares about them. Like, I'm not saying nobody, but the market isn't what it used to be.
The market's changed. Correct.
And there's a lot of younger kids now, and USDGC discs don't have the same appeal that some of the newer, your Brody discs, your Macbeth discs, your Conrad discs, that the newer stars, so to speak, demand, as opposed to what the USDGC used to. So
yeah, I mean, and that's an old adage that will go on till the end of time, of like, the kids these days just don't appreciate. I mean, there's something to be said about that throughout these various generations of not only players but of collectors, and we know some of these really rare or unique and very limited runs or limited discs that had so much value at one point, just skyrocketing, and now a disc that might be made in the tens of thousands tomorrow might sell for 5 times more. And that's the nature of collecting and flipping and supply and demand. And I'm not arguing with any of that philosophy. It is what it is, but it certainly holds true. And I've been around long enough to have seen these different phases and iterations, and sometimes it makes me shake my head, but that's about as old and grumpy as you can get about it, because what I think really doesn't matter at that point. And as Joe says, Ron Perkins, shout out to Ron Perkins from Arizona, who, at one point flew to this event just to go out in front of the shack or behind the shack which we're using exclusively for media this year. He camped out in front of the shack so he could be first in line to get the release of some of the rocks and some of the discs for that particular year. So, I mean, you want to talk about fanatics and diehard and collectible. I mean, he literally flew from across the country to sit in front of the building so that he could be first in and get first pick at, the release of these rocks that were released that particular year. So it's real. It definitely is crazy. So, all right. Ray says, I'm absolutely ying again. Sorry, Ray, if I use absolutely too many times. Lots of conversation about discs. You guys can all argue about the various discs. That's great. Does it seem insane, Dust? Yes. And thank you earlier for the super chat. We appreciate it. It I guess just like anything else collectible, though, does it seem insane? I think it's insane. Somebody sits out in front of a Target for Pokemon cards, but clearly that has and will continue to run its course, and
Yeah.
millions of other
Collectible
the new
cards
iPhones
right now,
and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and they all have their their highs and lows and their valleys and peaks and whatnot. As we go through the various ages and nostalgia and whatnot. What is total sidetrack here? No surprise. What is the was the iPhone just released? The latest, the 13? I'm not
The
an Apple guy,
iPhone-
obviously.
Yeah, the iPhone 13 was released a few weeks ago.
And is that gonna? Do they? I know obviously there's so much microchip problem, blah blah blah. Is there this huge supply? Are people over the allure and the madness that is the new released iPhones and these people trampling people? And is that done?
For the most part in the US? I did see some video over in South Korea, I believe it was. There was like a mall, and it looked like there were 500 to 800 people rushing this mall to get an iPhone. But I think in the US that has kind of waned down, as iPhones don't, and cell phones, smartphones in general, don't really improve with crazy good features year after year like they did 5 or 6 years ago. Now it's it's a slight upgrade to my camera, as it is every year, and maybe some software feature that's kind of neat. That's kind of it usually. There's
not a lot of revolutionizing anymore, is what you're saying.
Not at the moment, and that will probably change in a couple of years, or it'll keep. I think the next quote unquote big thing that people are going to start doing is putting like the fingerprint reader underneath of your screen. Some people have tried that and it hasn't really worked out very well. But the face recognition stuff has been really, really good. It's better than I thought it would be. I use it daily to buy stuff with my phone. Whether it's a little vending machine or every store that has it, I use it. I will use that over a credit card 99% of the time.
Quick sidetrack to that. Either A, my 10-year-old has hacked my 13-year-old's phone and set it up this way, or B, I don't know if I fully trust it, in the sense that Kenzie, my 10-year-old, her face unlocks my 13-year-old's iPhone. And yeah, they're both my kids, and I love them both, but they don't look that similar.
They don't. Your daughter may have added herself in as a person, maybe on that. That would not shock me in the slightest.
Like what she would do.
I know.
I'm a little surprised, and at least this is what I think I overheard from a conversation the other day: is that the 10-year-old could get into the 13-year-old's iPhone, and with her face, and I was shocked by that. But now I'm thinking about it more, wondering, did she get into her phone and then somehow add her face to being one of the unlockable solutions? That I don't know. But
and as someone mentions about the chip shortage and stuff, it isn't really affecting cell phones because it's a different type of chip. Apple tends to make these chips themselves, so they have a lot more control over the manufacturing process of it, as opposed to other computer chips for cars and routers and things like that, which might be a different type of silicon and is relied on for other means to get a hold of it. So,
all right, wow, we're talking Apple.
There's your cell phone talk. I heard Nate Perkins had to get a new cell phone today, so. He was.
I think that's what he was working on, is upgrading the internets.
He's upgrading the internets because he's going to be doing some Encore stuff, and his phone wasn't working so hot. So I think they're looking at different phone. If I remember correctly, if I heard that.
Well, we'll see how he's bringing it in. Is he back to that? Is he going to be sideline reporting for MPO and FPO that you know of?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Nice. All right. Looking forward to it. Sorry. All right. I don't know if we have anything else in the chat. Doesn't look like there's anything pressing there. Johnny, you want to do an extra giveaway next week?
We'll do 2 giveaways next week. No, we'll do 2 giveaways next week. I have it just came today, our disc member box. So if you want to be eligible for the disc member box, sign up, by next week, and you can win the disc member box. So thanks to all our Patreon
Sweet.
supporters. You guys make this possible.
Okay, so we'll have that and an extra one. Funny enough, somebody had reached out to me and said, "Hey, just following up. I think I won something a while back." Then she gave me her address, and then I said, "Your timing is perfect. It actually did go out 2 days ago." And then all I had to do was send her the tracking number, and sure enough, she probably has it by today. But yes, I am significantly more caught up on that, but looking forward to more drawings, and we'll give some of that action away. I should have started with this hours ago. I want to quickly get in the shout out this weekend. Incredible time that I had at the MIDI disc golf event that took place in southeastern Wisconsin on Saturday. Those guys did all the hard work. I just showed up with 10 baskets and had a good time. Thanks to the Schicks and the assist on the vending there, all the other incredible vendors that were there. We had over 100 people came and played. It was a 10-hole temp course, putters only. We'll bring it into the DG court, whether a zone is a putter or not. We'll bring that one to the DG court another day. But it was an incredible time, and huge shout out to MIDI Disc Golf. Those guys are doing some really good things in southeastern Wisconsin, and I was just honored to be partnered up with them. And by partnered, I mean they did most of the work, and I simply showed up. And so thank you to everyone that came out and all the new people that I met, some fans of the show, some people who had no idea what we do, and everything in between. And just, it was a really, really good time. So big shout out to that entire crew. And I wanted to get that in there. I should have said that hours ago, but it was great. It was great to be home and have that experience this last weekend. All those people, incredible.
Well, get used to it, Terry. Hopefully you're going to be home a little bit more in the next, we got about 2 weeks. So
no, I got lots of other stuff to do. All right. Well, we're going to close it out, guys. This has been great talking USDGC. Get your predictions in. Go post them on Facebook today. Timestamp them, date stamp them, so that you can look smart in a couple days in terms of who you predicted. But looking forward to the Throw Pink Championships.
The
we
secret
wish all
is
the FPO
post different pics on different social medias. Then you can just point to that one.
Yep. See, I called this Wednesday night. Yep. Don't look at my Facebook where Wednesday afternoon I pick someone else, but on Facebook as opposed to Twitter. But you're going to shut down Facebook again. We don't need to get into that. But yes, best of luck to everyone, all of our competitors. I was reminded and thought about, how Respect Her Game was the campaign that was just getting started at this event last year. I do feel like we've made some great strides there, and very much excited to see that continue to grow and not be forgotten or tossed aside. And this weekend is a great reminder of it, to keep us moving forward on that initiative and campaign as well. So best of luck to everyone over there on the Throw Pink side. Best of luck to everyone over on the USDGC side. Looking forward to a great weekend, live coverage, all of that action that you can find out there on the Disc Golf Network. Thanks to all the teams that are making it possible, the largest media crew we've ever had at an event. And I think it's going to show with all of the coverage that's ultimately out there and available. And then, like I said, if you want to listen to me ramble on at night, you check out the Disc Golf Guy channel. You'll likely find me over there. So for Johnny V and myself, this has been Smashbox TV's podcast 371. Get your picks in for Chains for Charity, so you can support your favorite players and your favorite charitable contributions and recipients. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you live all week from the USDGC. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.